And we're live.
We're live. All right. Well, hello everyone. We have okay. Holly, she's the chair of the Republican, the GOP here in Tooele County. So let's have Holly go ahead and introduce herself and tell us all how to pronounce her name.
I'm Holly Crowley Rabanne.
Ray
And yes,
Bonnie.
Rabanne.
Okay.
And the Tooele County GOP chair, as you mentioned. And we are excited and getting geared up for new election season. And I'm sure that hopefully I can hear from a lot of you out there who are interested in either running for an office. We have a lot open, or participating. We have caucus coming up. I'd love to talk to you guys about that. And, filing deadlines, convention. Convention is what's special to the Republican Party and how we select our candidates. And so I've got a lot of good stuff. Plus, I want to shoot the stuff with you guys regarding politics all around. If you want a girl to talk politics with, please pick me.
Outstanding. I like it. So
Here you are.
what
Thank you.
what positions do you have open in the Republican Party here in the county that you're looking to get filled, and kind of what attributes are you hoping to find?
Well, currently it's hard for me because we have incumbents serving in these seats right now. Kendall Thomas's seat is Stockton and part of Tooele. His seat has come open, will be open this year, as well as Tom Tripp's from Grantsville, the district in Grantsville. So that's our county council that will be open. Our sheriff's up for re-election, as is our county attorney and our county auditor and county clerk. So all those seats. So for me to say, who am I looking for? I think we've got great people serving, but I always encourage, if you're interested in serving and think you can do a better job, then I want to meet you and I want to talk to you.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone from the party that's currently in a seat that is planning on leaving that seat, moving on to something else?
Actually, Merrill Nilsson, which I believe his new district is 23, which he covers Stansbury and Grantsville, Millard County, and Juab County. He's decided not to seek re-election, so his seat will be open. And we've had a couple people express interest, but one actually filed to get signatures. And I believe you guys have been in touch with that gentleman. It's Bridger.
Yeah.
Bollinger.
Yes, he is coming on. I believe it's is it this upcoming Monday? I believe I have to double check my notes, but I believe it's this upcoming Monday.
Well, I've had the opportunity to speak with him at length and get to know him a little bit, having just met him myself, and I'm really impressed. When people come to talk about running for the office, the first thing I want to do is talk platform with them. People are angry at the Republican Party. I have been angry at the Republican Party, and I get it. A lot of people are considered independents in this county. What I love about our county, we have a lot of free thinkers here. Our platform is so important to me because it makes it clear that we are individuals. We are not a collective. God chose us to be who we are. We are individual spirits in this life, and our job is to decide our own destiny. And when you look at our platform versus the Democratic platform, we believe we're responsible for ourselves and get out of our way government. We don't want the government. We want small government, not big government. And when I'm speaking with a candidate about things like this, especially a representative from the House that would represent me, I'm in Stansbury Park. I want to know how they're going to vote. I want to know what they're going to do. I'll give you an idea in legislation this past week. The vote came out for legislators, and they actually passed it, to remove all mandates, even from the counties that chose mandates.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was tough because I don't like mandates ever. I think that we as individuals should choose for ourselves. However, I also don't like the state of Utah dictating to the counties how they'll run their counties. So when they tell everyone in the state that each county will have its own decision to make regarding mandates, and to decide to mandate, and then they come in and go, no mandates. Well, what did that just do to that local council who is taking accountability for their decision, no doubt? The public and the vote will decide if they made the right choice, but now you've taken it out of their hands and you have put it in the state's hands. I wouldn't want it in my county, but for our council to work very hard and decide to come up with something they think it's right, whether it is or not. It's our job as citizens to get them out or disagree with them, not the state's job to shut them up. So again, I'm against big government in many ways. And I think our state is special. We've been one of the most conservative states out there. It seems to be changing a bit with the new people coming in. But the beauty of our county is there's so many of us that still value the Constitution, and we still value that individual spirit and that individual destiny. And, Second Amendment is a big deal to our county. We're the most armed county in the nation. And a lot of people, and we argue, back and forth with Alaska, but a lot of people don't realize that we are proud people. We are kind. We're a kind community, but we do hold, I try to sit in every meeting I can that's a public meeting with our electeds, because I want to be able to cheer them on when they do well, but to call them out when there's something that maybe they're doing that isn't right with the people. So I work for the voters. I don't work for the electeds.
Yeah. Well, I that is an interesting subject that isn't brought up often enough, that Tooele County commonly ranks super high on the armed populace lists, especially in comparison to the rest of Utah. But that is now the removing of the mandates, was that kind of a state level? They voted to remove all the mandates from all of the different county electorates, and is that why I saw Salt Lake City's mayor jump on Twitter and have a moment of falling on her knees and banging her head off the floor and crying? Is that what happened there?
Yeah, Salt Lake County and Summit County both voted to put mandates back in place. And this is why I'm torn on the issue. I hate mandates. I get it. And I get a lot of voters are sick and tired of COVID, and they're sick and tired of control. Those voters have, like the parents in what's been going on across this country right now in teacher and meetings with the districts. Voters should go to their county council if they are unhappy with the fact that Summit County voted for mandates. That's the voters' job to control their local, your destiny, and you have far more control over your own life with what happens on a local level than you ever will, and how you vote on a local level than you ever will state or federal.
Good point. Why did the state step in on that and kind of make a anti-mandate mandate?
I think it is, and I have to be fair to these legislators. We have two representatives. We have Merrill Nelson and we have Doug Sagers. Both voted differently regarding this issue. And Doug was very adamant that people are sick of mandates. Doug's right. In our county, we have been outspoken about mandates and the end of them. And even the thought of bringing them up. Mandates lead to closure. Closures lead to huge changes in our life, shut down our economy. And you guys saw what's happened with COVID over the last 2 years. Our county struggled a bit. A lot of our businesses were hurting so bad, whether they've come back or they're not. We're seeing a whole new world here. So both of our representatives have heard from the people against mandates, and Doug voted that way to for his, what he thinks the people want. Where Merrill voted different was kind of along the lines where I was torn with is they gave the power to the county and now they've taken it back. So where Merrill is, he's a constitutional lawyer, so you expect him to get in the weeds where the Constitution's concerned, and he did. And he said, I can't. I know you hate mandates, but stand up in your county and tell your representatives you don't want them. And some counties may want them. When I'm in Salt Lake County, I was there 2 days ago. I felt like an alien walking around the Costco, and the only one not wearing a mask. It was very strange because I'm so accustomed to home and walking around, and it's like we're in two different worlds right now.
Oh,
And
we are. Yeah.
people are good with that.
Urban and rural and suburban, those are three different worlds, and they're reflecting. And I think we're not done seeing that boil to a head. But back to Doug and Merrill's different positions is, I find that we've had Doug on the show, and we enjoyed our chat with him, and he voted a way that Dave brought up on the show, had him look into the constitutional carry part. Not to go back to guns, but we're a couple of knuckleheads, so guns will slip in every time we chat to someone. But Doug was initially against it, and we said, look it up. Look up the records on places that's gone to constitutional carry, and you'll see that there is not a adverse effect on the community. And so I like to think that actually it was Dave that brought that up to him, that after he looked into that caused him to change his vote towards I think the initial idea behind the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights. And Merrill voted against that. Now you say he's a constitutional lawyer, and he votes for the Constitution on this instance that I agree with him on, because I do agree that let's keep laws rolling down as small as we can. If we can get laws to initiate as small as we can, and let's not run them up the flagpole so we have an over-encompassing law where it manages over 5 million people. Because I don't like mandates, because at the end of all those laws is a person with a gun. And that's what everyone has to remember. Anytime you write a law, there is a police officer with the gun and the threat of death at the end of that. And no one follows anything to its logical conclusion. And that's what it is. So when people write a law like, oh, we want to ticket people smoking in their car if they have kids, okay, that's fine. But you have to think to the end of that, there is someone possibly getting shot by a police officer in front of their kids for smoking.
Or vice versa.
Molly, could that have gone the opposite direction? So you've made the point that the state legislature has overridden the county, but the people are happy with the results, perhaps, but it could have went the other way, correct? I mean, they could have said, you know what, you said no mandates, but we want mandates, if that was a very liberal state legislation.
You know what, in the very beginning of COVID, and I know this was difficult for Herbert, and Cox was running that team, that task force. The health department was advising mandates and closures and shutdowns, but Herbert came out and said, we're going to leave it up to the counties. We don't want to be the ones from on high telling the counties how to do it. We do have a great team of legislators up there. I believe in freedom first. But the answer is yes. A couple seats change, a couple seats are lost to the other party, and we could have the opposite thing happen. The opposite thing is happening in many blue states, where legislators saying we demand shutdowns. And I mean, look at New York. I mean, New York is it's like a whole different world in itself.
It is a foreign country, as Dave well knows.
It is. It's terrifying to me to think that people are under such duress where their freedom is concerned and they are not angry. I'm not someone who wants to go out and stand in a picket line, but like your flag says, don't tread on me. Are you kidding me? Don't put your foot on my back and tell me that I have to do this, this, and this. This is still America, and we have to make sure that we keep it that way.
That's the big difference between Republicans and Democrats, though, isn't it? Is
Absolutely.
Democrats Well, and there's been lots of studies into it, but Democrats predominantly reside in the cities. And I would say there's a mix on which molded which. The Democrats were molded by their urban dwellers, or the urban dwellers were molded by the Democrats, and Republicans by their rural. But initially, Democrats spread through all of them, and Republicans were urban. Then we're talking, mid 1800s through early 1900s. And we've had a slow switch over the last 75 years. But
well, I can tell you that slow switch, human rights. One party was for women's rights.
Well,
one party was fighting for all those rights, and it wasn't the party that most people imagine it was.
Yeah, and it would be nice. Well, we'll get into education in a minute, but the big difference between the two is their willingness to turn over portions of their responsibility to the government.
Oh.
And the Democrats honestly believe that the government is there on their behest and their behalf, and they actually work for them. And if we just get the right guy in there to run our lives, it'll work out great. And I'm not trying to say this to disparage them. They just want to turn whatever piece of control over to the government, because the big daddy will take care of them. And Republicans want what I see is closer to liberty, is they want to maintain some of that control for themselves. Now, then you've got the crazy people like myself who want the government to have as little control as possible, because I haven't seen the government perform ever. I haven't seen a success. Not in my lifetime has the government sought an initiative and been successful. We can run through the ringer. I mean, the thing that has lasted since 3 years before I was born and is still the ultimate failure, the war on drugs, all it's done is stripped our rights, stripped our ability to have money, to have security in our neighborhoods, and it's gutted us. And that's both parties.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there's so much we can go back to. The government doesn't produce or sell anything. The government makes no money. We are their product. Mm-hmm. We are the ones who fund them. And that's what people forget. Yes, we want programs. We want to save the world. Some of us would like to protect our country first and protect our borders and protect those who live within our walls and be able to be a sovereign nation like every other one in this world. But aside from that, we want to be able to use our own money. We want to be able to own our own property. We get taxed to the hilt as it is. And yet the government should not be our king. There should not be that much power. And it get me started on COVID with an unelected bureaucrat running the show for the first 2 years. I mean, with Fauci, the man isn't elected. He's just, he's accountable to no one except maybe a president who could fire him. But our freedoms can be taken so quickly. And I believe you're both veterans. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. My daddies were veterans of Vietnam, and I'm grateful for your service. And I look at people who have given and signed that blank check to America, and I think, what must you think when you watch the country go from one state to another state over just who's in charge? And it's starting to feel more like a king. And because our freedoms are being taken.
Yeah.
Right. It's gone back. I mean, look at Bush and the, when he started listening to our phone calls. I mean, the Patriot Act, the TSA, that was a Republican.
Oh, yeah. Well, should we just go off just last week? Well, it's been boiling over for a month, but Alex Jones, the ultimate evil person on the internet, was subpoenaed to talk about January 6th, the day that levels there with Pearl Harbor and 9/11 and, the asteroid hitting the dinosaurs, all that stuff. It's the biggest day ever. Anyhow, old Schiff, that hero on the hill, had his phone records without a warrant. And that's something to really think about.
Oh, yeah.
What if the government, right now they're doing it for a criminal investigation without a warrant, but what if the government decides that they want to take your business ideas and give it to their buddies? Can they just go in and strip them like that? I mean, no one thinks to the logical conclusion of their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're looking at, that they just went in and snatched all his phone records. Well, that's kind of shocking to me.
How many people are sitting in a jail right now and still haven't been charged?
Yeah.
Been over a year now.
Uh-huh. Yeah, what are we looking at? Are we looking at political persecutions? Could that be?
Feel that way? It feels that way. I mean, honestly, how many people were charged and prosecuted for the summer of riots? I mean,
yeah.
I am not defending January 6th.
It's the worst day ever.
The day democracy almost died. I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
I think, to me, they are blowing that up, so to speak. But I don't agree that people should try to intimidate or instill fear. And I just think there's such a hypocritical situation when it comes to Republicans and Democrats. I mean, look back at the Kavanaugh case. Remember Kavanaugh, and then remember the day he was getting sworn in. There was masses of people trying to break down the Supreme Court.
No one charged. How about the day that they tried storming the fences at the White House? What was it? 11 months prior to January 6th? And the Black Lives Matter did, and they had to evacuate the president.
Yeah.
No one charged. And that was, same violence.
Well,
so,
in this day and age, and the press is a big issue, because to report on certain stories and then to over-report on others, I can only imagine CNN wants Trump back in office just so they have something to talk about. Their ratings have plummeted since Trump's been gone.
Well, that's why they're going after Joe Rogan now. He's their new Trump.
Joe, good luck with that.
Yeah, he's their new Trump. It's getting ridiculous, and we're kind of off in the weeds on it. And I feel like we should do the listeners a little bit of latitude, and where's the GOP at in the county? For people who want to become a part of the GOP and want to voice that, what can they do? How should they step up? What do you need?
I'm so excited. We are finally, after 4 years, we are having caucus. Caucus, if you don't know, is when you and your neighbors meet in a location and you choose. You must be a registered Republican. Caucus is on March 8th, and it's a Tuesday night. We will be having the maps go out. You can contact Tracy or utahvote.org, where you can find out what precinct you're in, as well as caucus locations. That will all be coming. We just did redistricting, and so we've got new precincts. So you want to double check your precinct, and you want to double check the location, which will all be available online soon enough. I'm sure Tracy Shaw, the county clerk, will make an announcement when that information is up. You go to your caucus, and at that time you meet your neighbors, and you will elect a precinct chair. That's somebody that will work with us in the central committee, which is our governing body of our party. The precinct chair and vice chair. Those are the people that I go to when I want to change a bylaw, or I would like to request funding for something. These are our governing people, the people that I'm accountable to. And they make laws with us, they're rules for the party, and they listen to the reports of our elected officials and give feedback. They're important. It's a very important job being a precinct chair or vice chair. And they're also our first line of defense when a candidate needs volunteers. The precinct chair can call on members of the precinct and ask them, would you like to help this candidate? Maybe knock on doors or make some phone calls. So once the chair is elected, we also elect at our caucus county delegates. Those are the individuals who are going to get in front of every single person running for a county seat. And it's a fun job. You get to know the candidates personally. You either talk to them on the phone. As the chair, I try to get a meeting in person so that you're actually getting all the hard questions asked and seeing their face when they answer them. And, just it's more personal. Delegates will then go to county convention, which we will have on the 21st of April, and they will vote. And this year they will be voting on those seats that I mentioned. And they give us their winner, and we send that person on to the primary. Now, there is another option. The caucus night is March 8th. Like I said, you have an opportunity to vote or run. Honestly, all it takes is someone nominate you for one of these seats. The other seat is state delegate, where you go to state convention on April 23rd, and you vote for the state candidates, which is your congressman. It would be Merrill Merrill and Scott Sandel, as well as Doug Sagers and Dan Thatcher, those seats, Senate and House. Congressman, if the governor was running, that's who would pick. The AG seat, that's who they would pick, but those two aren't running. State convention is usually held at the Maverick Center. It's a big deal, and you get one-on-one with many different candidates and really get to know them. Our idea is that you report to your neighbors who elected you in your findings. And great delegates take the job serious, get in front of everyone, and then they let people know what they decided and get feedback from their neighbors, and hopefully vote that way on behalf of their neighbors, because essentially that's their job, is to be a voice for the 1,000 people around them. And then we're going to do a training day, a caucus training day on February 24th at the Utah Motorsports campus. And that's where we're going to teach people how to caucus. And if they're interested in being a chair, a vice chair, a state delegate, or a county delegate, we walk them through it. And we try to give them all the information possible. And you have to be a registered Republican to caucus. And when you do go that evening, if you haven't registered, someone checking you in, you could register online in that moment. But we do want registered Republicans. Democrats also caucus on the same night, but they're not. We've got to get so many locations set for our caucus, and I think they only use one for theirs. So for us as a party, we think it's the most important. Look, there's another way to get to the primary, and that is by getting signatures. And, it might be 500, it might be 1,000, but those people are very important to us too. Their voice is, hey, look, I don't want to go sit in a caucus and all that. I'll sign this. I trust you. I believe in you. And I want you to go to the primary. That's what they're telling a candidate when they sign their petition to run. So if you have a candidate running, some will get signatures and do the caucus, and some will do convention only through our caucus convention delegates. Either way, they both have a path to get to the primary. And again, only Republicans are allowed to vote in the primary. So it's a really great deal for local government, especially because you get to sit down with, Kendall, whoever's running for the seat, but Kendall Thomas, and you can ask him all the questions you have, and he's more than happy to answer them, and talk about his record and get to know why he's done certain things, or talk to the sheriff and get to know about his record. There's such a great opportunity when you're a delegate to really sit down and talk to the horse. You're getting it from the horse's mouth, rather than what you see in the press. And we talk to Chris Stewart all the time. I get updates from him. He's retired Air Force. He's phenomenal. He's a phenomenal congressman. No one's filed against him, so I can talk about him, but he's an excellent representative and somebody that you can call and talk to, or at least you can reach out to, and he tries extremely hard to get back in quick, timely manner. So as a delegate, you get to get in front of these people, and Chris Stewart is up for re-election this year, as well as Mike Lee.
Yeah, we chatted with both the contenders for Mike Lee so far, with Ali and with Mitchell.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and hopefully you can get Mike Lee on your show.
That'd be nice.
Which brings me to your invitation to the Lincoln Day dinner. We've been working on getting Mike Lee there, and that will be on March 5th. So any Republican that would like to join us for Lincoln Day, where we celebrate the founder of our party, Abraham Lincoln, we're going for March 5th, and that will also be at the Utah Motorsports campus. And invitations and tickets are going to go on sale next week.
Do we have a price for those tickets yet?
Yes, they'll be $60 a person. And it is as high as we've gone, I think, as long as I've been chair, but we found that catering has increased, food has increased, everything is increased. So wages have increased. So we are trying to keep it low while still trying to have a fundraiser to assist our candidates that are going on to the primary.
You got to pay the bills, right?
Yeah, we do. And I am the type of person that likes to not spend money. So I like to keep it in the bank until we actually, we can do it. We can work really smart and make sure we're getting the right candidate out there. And once delegates choose that candidate for us, and I mean, we like to go full bore.
Hey, Holly, let me talk about the process of becoming a delegate. When it comes to actually earning your position as a delegate, your precinct population has to vote you into that slot, correct?
Yes.
Now, is there only one opportunity to vote for your delegate, or can you maybe sign a slip stating this is how you want to vote and not attend the meeting? Do you have to attend the meeting in person to vote?
That's an interesting question that we just had brought up to us only a couple nights ago. I do believe there was an option online where these are people like you and me who agree because we beg for them to go host a meeting, and we have the location picked out and paid for, and all their neighbors are invited and everyone's supposed to show up. And then, it could be 15 people, it could be 30 people. On presidential election year, sometimes it's 70 people in one room. But yeah, we want you to be able to participate, and we are trying to figure out ways to make that possible for the common person who is participating, because caucus is for everybody. We don't want anyone to feel left out. And so we're trying to find locations that'll give them enough space for those worried about COVID. Masks are welcome. No masks are welcome. We want to make sure that everyone can participate. And if you have an interest in running for delegate, I would bring your neighbors to vote for you. And the best thing I ever did, run for state delegate, was so much fun. And to be able to reach out to my neighbors. But it was really surprising that only one answered me back about feedback that I'd given. It was the Orrin Hatch year. He said, vote for Orrin Hatch. I was like, okay, but the only one, I guess everyone else just trusted me because no one really responded. So what I'd like to see is that change. The neighbors know who their delegates are, and delegates are really giving feedback to their neighbors.
Right. We got to keep our politics as local as possible. So that's where we all have to be involved, because that's where we make a difference. Yeah, we've been preaching that. It's
so true. And honestly, the Tooele County Republican Party is a lot different than the Summit County Republican Party. How lucky are we that we've been able to sweep and choose, in my opinion, choose all of our candidates that are our electeds right now, who are doing a great job. And, when you go to Summit County, it's the opposite. Most, if not all, of the seats are Democrat seats. Their party there is trying to rally the troops and get people on board and get them involved. And I love the momentum we're on in this county, because this county's not majority Republican. People think we are, but we're a majority of independents. And I love it. The Republican Party, the reason that we are different, I say this, is we're a party made up of free thinkers. And with free thinkers comes differing ideas, but if they all end up back down to that one thing, and that's individual liberty and God and the Constitution of the United States, and if we can just, and the patriotism, loving our country, loving our homes, and we come back to that we we have a lot of pride in that. And it doesn't matter how we differ. If you're a Romney Republican or a Mike Lee Republican, or if you're a Trump supporter or you dislike Trump and would never want to be around him, we can all, like Reagan said, agree with me 80% of the time, and we're fine. 20% of disagreement is just fine. And that's what we are out here. We are a big tent, and I would love more people to commit to being a Republican, of course. But at the same time, I respect the people that judge by candidate and not by party. And they take the time to research and get to know more than just the platform of a candidate, but they get to know the candidate themselves. And that's, again, where it's local, where you're running into this person at Walmart or at the Maverick, or, you're seeing them, their families, you know so much more about them. And that's that small town rural feel. And that's where I think that, we're very lucky. And that's why you want to keep involved. You guys do an excellent service, by the way. I learned a lot watching your podcast, and, I appreciate it, because you don't have a script. You just decide to start chatting about something, and you have taught me about these candidates. For the school board, I watched one of yours last year when I was so impressed with your questions. I need you guys. That's what I need. I need you to interview our candidates.
We'll interview. We'll talk about the issues. We like to go into the issues that most people don't talk about, because those are the interesting ones, a little bit of a taboo on top of those issues. That's what, it adds a little flavor to the podcast.
I agree. Well, you want to talk about Joe Rogan is the devil. Half the time I wouldn't agree with half the things sometimes he says, but I love that he says them, especially the other half. And I'm watching a podcast like his explode, and just because he is talking about everything, he's not following a script or towing the line for anybody.
Yeah.
And I respect that a lot.
Well, and here's the biggest difference right now. And I would argue it's not so much a difference between Democrat and Republican, but it's a difference between urban and rural and suburban. Is, do I want to force any of my lifestyle on anyone else? And where he wins is he'll talk to people that I totally disagree with, but he never brings it with, this is the right thing, so I want to make everyone else do it. And I think that's the important thing. But I want to get back to the delegate thing. So while you're talking, I'm thinking the delegate is the way that, by getting to know who your delegate is, supporting them, voting for them, all of that, that's how you mold your community government into what you want to see, into one you can live with. Because the Republican Party here is different than the Republican Party, even say down in Carbon County or in some obtuse county in Colorado or Wyoming, because the party is going to reflect who its members are. And so, yeah, if you are interested in making either party more to your liking, I think that's the way to do it, is to become if not a delegate, to get to know your delegate so you can start molding a little bit of that direction.
I totally agree. And it is in Utah, it is what sets us apart, the delegates and the caucus system. Not every state does this. We like to think of it as our way to pick our candidates. We're a private party, and we want to pick our candidates our way. And, this way has been how it's been done for many, many years. We also just started the dual path, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, where they can get signatures for those people who feel like the delegate caucus system isn't their favorite way to pick a candidate. But you're right, these delegates teach us more party leadership. They teach us more than most people, because I see that, again, individual thinkers, they don't toe the line. You could be a delegate very easily and sit down and ask these questions to someone running for a certain seat, and this person is either going to impress you or they're not. They're all going to try because they need your vote. But you can ask them questions, and you can get down into the dirt with them, or you can, I mean, my favorite thing to ask a candidate is, well, who's going to pay for it? You know, these great ideas you have, where's the money coming from? Again, the government produces nothing, right? We're the product. We provide this money. And so I love being a state delegate, and I've been a state and county delegate. And it's, to me, I just love the experience of it. So I recommend it to anyone who's interested in being more involved. It does not a huge requirement. We're talking, you're elected on March 8th as a delegate, and then your convention, you get to know these candidates by April 21st for the county. And we have state convention on the 23rd for the state candidate delegates. There's that one convention they attend, and then the following year, they attend an organizing convention where they vote for my seat, and our leadership team, the delegates, will choose who leads the party. That's their job. Now, the central committee, the precinct chairs and vice chairs, they would meet more. We look at meeting 3 times a year to discuss and to communicate, you know, certain bylaws and issues. And that one, those people are really important to the governing aspect of our party and the accountability part of our party. One thing I try to tell everyone is that our central committee and our leadership team, what we try to do is get the best candidates involved and elected, and then we stay with those candidates to make sure that we can reward them when they're great and hold them accountable if there's something we're unhappy with. Voters will reach out to us. They may not reach out to the candidate. Our candidates, well, our electeds right now, there's not one that I'm not able to reach out to, ask a question, and they're able to answer my question and do so, you know, knowing what they did was the right thing for them, what they thought was the right thing. So I've not had any issues where I've said, hey, why is this budget like this? And why are we doing, you know, there's always more to the story than we ever know. And people can spout off everything about a seat and how great they would do the job. But until they've done it, a lot of it is trial by fire. And they learn there's another side to this, and they can't keep those promises because there's budgets involved and there's more minds they have to meet. You know, they've got to compromise, and it's not easy for them. But I really think we've done a great job with who we got in office right now. And so I look forward to the upcoming year, though, to see who else comes out to run.
Very good. Very good. You mind if we prattle off a few comments at you?
Oh, of course not.
All right. So Susie Findlay says, "You go, girl."
Hi, Susie.
It's a pretty basic comment. All right.
I love her.
Yeah. Blair Hope, he says, now Blair is, he runs the Hope for Life Foundation. It's a veterans foundation for helping veterans out. We've had him on a few times. Matter of fact, March, do you remember the day? Is it March 5th? I don't have it right in front of me. One day in March, they're having a fundraising dinner
In May.
Or
Actually.
May. In
Yes.
May.
I know Blair well, and I know his foundation well, and
Well,
I'm
it's a good thing you showed
I'm
up to the
very
party.
proud of him.
Yeah, Blair's a great guy. He says, I agree with what Holly is saying concerning the mandates, but with the current legislation, approval of ending mandates is a good thing. The problem is that the citizens, by popular demand, did go to their commissioners and councilmen disagreeing with their mandates. They didn't listen, hence the state had to step in as they should with the issue. Now that may be true. What I think he's saying is that when the state voted to take away the mandates from all the counties, how your thoughts are that should have been kept on a county level. What he's saying is that the county representatives
people.
ignored the people. And yes, I agree with that. But I think the bad thing about the state stepping in is the state then stepped in and protected those people who will now remain in office, because you need to let your politicians, if they are going to abuse you, you need to let them fall on their face and not step in, because by the state stepping in, they protected them. Now those people kind of have an easy out when it comes for them to run again.
And not only that, it also sets a precedent to weaken your local government.
Yep.
For more power for the state government, which also means our state government, in according to this algorithm, should be overrode by a federal government. So we're letting the cat out of the Pandora's box when we override our local government like that.
That is true. And I think we definitely need to let, if a county representative is going to not withhold to ideals that the populace wants, that county representative should eat that giant bowl of horse manure that he served himself up when it comes time to get reelected.
Right. And Blair's right. The people might have gone to these individuals, and yes, mandates. I've said it a million times. I am not for mandates ever. I'm just not. I don't think the government should have that much power over us. Now, if we're going to talk county level, health departments had a lot of power in 2020. And our county council had told, the health department, at least the majority of them said, we're not going to do mandates anymore. And even when Omicron was getting heavier and out of control, at least with how many were infected in Tooele County, the health department is saying, well, we really recommend this. And the county council is saying, well, we already said we're not giving mandates. So we'll just inform more people, educate them, and hope they'll make decisions. Now, to me, that's what matters, is they're listening to their people.
Yeah.
If they told us last year they were not going to let mandates stand, our county council. So when I saw Summit County just instilled, the mandates, I immediately called our county councilman, Jared Hemner, and I said, what are you going to do? Is the county going to do mandates? And he said, oh no. And I said, well, if you are even going to put it up for a thought, please reach out to the public and have a public meeting where they're involved and they're engaged. And he said, we've already said we wouldn't. The public has made their voice clear, and they have in other county council meetings. Many people have come up. Many people have emailed and called and given the council what their ideas are. Now, there's a lot of people that also called in favor of mandates. So they're getting calls from both sides, but they know, talking to their neighbors and talking to their party and talking to individuals that are emailing and saying and giving them feedback, they've learned that no, mandates are not going to work. And whereas if people are being ignored, yes, then when it's their turn and they're up for re-election, yes, they should have to answer for that.
Yeah. Well, otherwise, I mean, now those individuals that want to put the mandates in that the people didn't want, now they've got cover. And when they run again, they can hide behind that, get back in. Well, before we go on, one comment popped off. Jeremy Nelson said, hi, guys. Jeremy Nelson is a retired Navy guy from the town of Grantsville. I think now he lives somewhere on the West Coast, but he jumps in every once in a while. Hey, Jeremy, he's a good guy and also another veteran.
Appreciate you, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Blair says, I actually think this is a testimony to how the system should work. We can't let local government run rampant either. And I agree. The problem is that when you the road to hell is paved with good intentions, that when you overstep for a good reason, it makes it easier for that same overstep that may lead to a bad reason, such as when we talk about George Bush and the Patriot Act, or when we talk about all of the the executive orders of Obama, which then got carried on and got done again by Trump, which then got carried on and executive orders rolled downhill by Biden to undo Trump's, which I don't care how you feel about it, that causes economic distress in a nation. That those little economic snowballs. If we were talking to Democrats, I would say, let's talk about the nuclear option when it came to judicial seats and how that worked out for the Democrats in the last 6 years. They brought up the nuclear option, they imposed it, and then they had to feel the wrath of it when Trump got to put 3 justices in. And that was a Democrat option that got played out, and they were warned against it. Harry Reid was warned, don't do it. You're going to regret it. Don't do it. He didn't listen.
And
he
with
did
the
it.
filibuster.
Yeah.
I mean, they talked about saving the filibuster. Now it's being discussed. It's being dropped.
Yeah.
What Blair is saying is true. We cannot let a county government go, amok, right?
But I would
we, the
say
voter, are the last line of defense for that.
I would say
If we want it to. We have to vote.
I would say we have to make sure that we have a definite line. Now, if they want to put mandates in, I don't think that's a line, because that's when the voters can actually, there's no reason why they're in that county. They can't go stand out in front of the county courthouse and, wiggle signs and say, hey, we're in economic jeopardy. I mean, if a county starts saying, Australian option or maybe the Canadian option, maybe that's when a state should jump in. But for a mandate, I think that's a premature use of state power.
Well, it's more than that. A mandate requires someone to enforce it.
It does.
I give you an example. They mandated it in Summit County. Well, I personally know the sheriff of Summit County.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Democrat, yes, but he believes in the Constitution, and he's not sending his deputies out to cite people or arrest them for not following a mandate. And he's made that clear to his council. That's not their job. And why put officers and people at risk over a mandate? That when you follow the science and the history and what we know about all of this from the beginning, it feels like it's a lot. There's a lot involved that is, we don't know. We don't know, and information is thrown at us, and then it's changed, and it's changed, and it's changed. So do masks work? Do shutdowns work? I mean, we have 2 years of research in this, and our levels are way higher.
What? I thought it was cured. I thought wasn't it 15 days to save everyone's life and it'd be over.
Just on day 190 or 300, I don't know what it is.
Oh, we're at day close to 600 right now.
Flatten the curve was
that's it.
was the lingo.
Flatten the curve.
I can't remember that far back, Dave. I'm sorry. I didn't.
How old were you?
I wrote it on my
Flatten the
hand.
curve.
If I'd have tattooed it on myself, it might have stuck around. But that's another thing to look at is was that a toothless mandate then if the sheriff was not willing to enforce it?
How do they?
And then what that makes it is that as the common nomenclature cruises around today, that makes the enforcement arm the Karens in their cell phones out in parking lots.
Or the health department. And then what? It's not individuals per se, but it's businesses. Businesses who are not following it, and they will hurt businesses. Well,
and that is true. And
unelected bureaucrats are enforcing laws that aren't really laws. They're mandates.
But that's when you come down to that. I don't know. I'm not saying they're wrong, but I still think that I would rather see politicians give them enough rope that they hang themselves if they're going to.
I wouldn't put it that way, but I completely understand.
I mean, let's look at our...
They have to be accountable for these decisions.
Let's look at our dear leader right now. Our dear leader, as he stands right now, has cost the Democrat Party everything they won over the last 4 years. In 1 year, he's cost it. If it's not...
us into a new war, too.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure, but that's what all failing politicians do. I mean, he wouldn't be the first nor the last. Hopefully, hopefully we can petition him the same way we kept Obama from jumping into Syria, and just say just a big loud no.
I think at this point, with his approval ratings the way they are, even through Democrats, I think that he has nothing to lose.
That is a good
And
point. He has.
I'm sorry. He gets into office day one. He eliminates the Keystone Pipeline, knowing he's going to grant the pipeline to Russia, knowing that Ukraine could be in danger. And when we think about this, this is where I get angry at Republicans. Why were there so many executive orders from President Trump that were never voted into law when we had the majority of 2 houses at the time, and then 1 house, at least at the Senate, for legislation? Why was those things not voted into law? They were made to stay executive orders. And I think it's so, what you said, they just get more and orders and more orders.
Mm-hmm. And that's the economic distress. How many people gained a job, bought a house, started raising maybe a couple of kids, a 2-year-old and a newborn, off of that executive order that then were out of work?
Oh, look how many companies started bonusing their employees when manufacturing was promised to be here in the United States, and the tax cuts for businesses. They were like, wow, this corporate tax rate. My husband's company, they gave everyone a bonus in his company to hire more people and to keep good people there. Well, one tax cut or one executive order or one new vote in the House and Senate, that could all be gone. And already jobs we have a labor crisis right now. We have a housing crisis right now. We've got, our dear leader.
I wonder if he borrowed one of Hillary's suit jamas things she wears, if he would match one of his compatriots over on the Far East, come out there looking like Mao.
I'm not even going to touch that.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't.
Can you imagine what Kim Jong-un has to go through when we change from a Republican administration to a Democrat administration? I mean, seriously, it's like our country has bipolar disease or something. I can't imagine how we can actually hold an ally from a foreign nation. Because we really do have 2 different countries in one country. And one day we're A and the next day we're B. And
that's a good point.
Policy like that.
That's exactly right. What a terrifying idea that, 1 minute we are really working hard with our allies. We're actually charging them to have our big ships out at sea and protecting them. And we're saying, hey, you guys should pay to do business here. You make us pay to do business in your country. And then next thing you know, it's like, well, all that's new. We don't, we're good. Let's worry about the climate crisis. But nobody talked to China about the climate crisis because they don't have to follow it. But the rest of us, we're going to die in 7 years because the climate crisis. And we've got to throw all this money at it. All this money. But, it changes. It is. It's like bipolar for somebody that's so far up and then so far down. And the American people, I really think, are exhausted. I really do. I know I am. I don't even have local news or the national news anymore in my house. I read what I can. And I listen because it makes me nuts. Well,
they just try ramping up the fear to keep you watching to see what the next catastrophe is. How about Irish fishermen out there deploying to fish in areas to interrupt Russia's training day off their coast right now?
What?
Russia is doing a naval training off the coast of Ireland, 50 miles off the Irish coast right now. So the Irish fishermen, the fisherman fleet is going out there and interrupting them right now.
Well, what does the UK say about that? I mean, what about their allies?
What does the UK have in an ally right now?
That's a good question.
Do they know where we're going to go? What was it last week? Biden says, well, if he does a little incursion, we'll sit down and talk about it. I mean, and then Biden goes out and gets a cat today because obviously that story with his dog Major didn't pan out too well. So he gets a pet cat to be the I guess you'd call it, spokesperson for the White House or whatever, the mascot. And I said he should have went with a baby pygmy goat because I think they're the damn cutest thing ever. Throw a pajama on it, he'd be the most popular president ever lived. I mean, a cat isn't going to save him.
I'm not a cat person.
Yeah. Well, I like cats fine. I just don't think a cat is going to be the draw, especially.
Here's something that I want no one to forget. I want no one, especially in this 2022 election, to forget about Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
If we're going to talk about
Yeah.
debacles and ridiculousness and absolute failure and total blame, it's on this White House for that.
And I
There
think
is no doubt that our allies aren't coming to our aid because we left our allies.
yeah. Hell, we left our own
allies,
citizens.
We left our own citizens.
And it was done on purpose. I'm telling you, you couldn't have timed it worse. You couldn't have said, okay, let's give them 2 months into their fighting season when they get their arms and ammunition shipment in and then leave. That was done on purpose.
If I was to ask you a question, you wanted to take this country down and you wanted to do it where you cripple economy, you cripple you put your foot on the back of the American people and you take their freedom and all of that, what would you do differently?
Well, I'm telling you,
What's been done?
the crazy thing that's been done is the thing that the Republicans need to pay attention to more. And in my anarchist circles, we talk about it all the time. And that's, we gave the cathedral over to communists. We gave the media, we gave the bureaucracy, and we gave the education system over to the communists. And look at what we get out of those three. And I mean, starting in elementary school, it is what they teach is this big daddy government going to take care of you. The answer is never finding intestinal fortitude or going to your friends and neighbors. It's always go to your government. The government's the answer. The government's secure. You get the media says the same thing, and that's even Fox News. And then you go to our bureaucracies, you get the FBI that's investigating parents for being concerned about what's being taught to their kids in school. This is scary stuff. And this is what happens when you give the institutions over, the cathedral. Mm-hmm. Those are the three. Those are the actual pillars of a society, and we've given them over. We've given them over to people who don't have your best well-being at heart.
I can't argue with that. And it all comes down to individuals that want it to change. It takes, you with one voice can do amazing things. And I think people need to remember that.
I mean, it hurts that I'm an ugly guy.
Well, we can join each other and we can educate each other and our neighbors and look people in the eye and talk to them about what's upsetting them, what's bothering them. And then we decide who's going to fill those roles at the local level, which controls this bubble we call Tooele County. Mm-hmm. And we can decide how this government's going to work. People they just tend to throw their hands up and say, look, I can't change it. Whatever. I don't even pay attention to politics. I don't know. And I think Reagan said it takes one generation, to lose our freedom. One. Now, I'm from the Gen X generation. I see that my generation has raised the millennials and the Gen Zs. I think that I don't know where it went wrong. Maybe our parents spoiled us, gave us what we never had. I don't know. I don't know what went wrong, but I think patriotism is lost. Where I send my kids to Patriot Camp because I want them to understand the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the founding of our country, and not feel ashamed of it, but to be proud of it and to know that these were regular men and their wives as support, but these were regular everyday men who risked everything. They risked everything to give us a nation where we get to be individuals and we get to decide for ourselves. And I imagine what the founders would think if they came to this day of time now. I mean, what would they say? Jefferson would have a lot of laughs because he'd be like, see,